Ready to go.
Dana, are you ready when we are?
Yeah, let me start my video. Hold on.
All right.
Okay, great. We can open with the Pledge of Allegiance. You guys already done that? Okay, great.
Yeah.
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. All right, the time is 5:30. It's June 23rd, 2025, and I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Halverson is absent. Trustee Wakefield?
Here.
Trustee Schicker?
Here.
Trustee Ferdinand? Here. Trustee George?
Here.
Pro Tem Harper?
Here.
Mayor Cranker?
Here. Great. Okay. Do we have any staff or board revisions to the agenda?
We do. Clayton's not able to join us tonight. He has a family issue he has to attend to. But he requested that we pull the marijuana ordinance at this time, and he will present another version at the P&O committee on July 16th meeting. His concern is that the one he proposed is a little too much for Silverton, and he has referenced he found an easier code that we can hopefully adopt.
Great.
Are you
okay, so we'll strike that from the agenda. And that would have been 7A. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Do we have any board revisions to the agenda?
No.
No? Okay. All right, we'll open it up now for public comment. So I think, Amy, you're on point there to manage any in-person public comment. Do we have any in-person public comment? If you'd like to make a comment in person, you can approach the podium, introduce yourself. You'll have 3 minutes. Do we have any in-person public comment?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Do one of you there want to do a timer for us, if that's okay?
Okay, we're ready.
Hopefully I'll be short. Just want to say hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Diener. I'm working on the SID project we've been talking about for a while. But I just wanted, so I'll be here if anyone has any further questions at that second reading. But I wanted to talk about tonight another ordinance that you're considering, which is 2025-10 is let's see. Ordinance 2025-11, removing section 13-1-90 of the town code. And I just want to say there is a similar piece of code that is actually better written than the one that you're repealing. But I just wanted to make it clear, I guess, that the similar piece of town code, section 11-2-70, it does, or it can perform a pretty important role. And whether or not the town has records of this sort of reimbursement process ever being used, I've heard that it's been used at least a couple times. And maybe you don't have records because the reimbursement period was shorter than it is in the section 11 piece of code. So in any event, the piece of code you're going to talk about repealing, that's probably fine as long as you keep that other piece in there, because I think it does perform a really good function for private landowners to extend utilities. Obviously, we can't use it. Well, we might be able to use it for the SID, but if someone were doing a smaller project, it would be very instrumental. So anyway, I hope that sticks around. That's all I got for you.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else in person? One moment.
Hello, my name is Hillary Cable. I live at 715 Martha Rose Boulevard in the Anvil Mountain subdivision. I would like to thank the town and the county for the work that they have put in and the commitment they have made to developing affordable housing in Silverton. It means a lot to the workforce here. My comment pertains to the Anvil Mountain townhomes that are on the agenda for discussion. Currently, the road that circles the lots is not in the current location. It is also at an elevation that is higher than my foundation. My house was the first to be built in that subdivision in 2019. I have been told by the contractor that the elevation of the road was changed after construction. The 3 houses that surround my lot are 3 feet in elevation higher than my foundation. And the retaining walls that are being built to retain the wall of the soil is not being built to code. I would request that the county and town address these issues and that the town ensure that any water shedding off of the roof from the townhomes does not impact my property. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more in-person public comment? Okay, if you're on Zoom, you can hit the raise hand button and we'll get you going. Anyone?
Thanks, Amy. All right, it doesn't look like we have any Zoom public comment, so we'll close public comment at this time and we'll move on to our consent agenda. We'll note in there's April sales tax, there's a couple of land use application administrative review decisions, and a couple special events. So any questions on the consent agenda, or if you did have substantive questions, we should have pulled that item out. Anything staff wanted to note in particular?
Just 2 events that we have in there is the Ira Viper running event. We've worked with them on their previous issues and we feel confident in putting it in here this time. Right, Tyler? Yes, we are confident this time. And then the 4th of July event is in there as well. New this year, we'll be doing a little concert in the park at a Nisi from 5 to 7.
Great. Who's playing?
So far, we have Mike Garriak.
Oh, great.
So working on getting
They always hits.
some others
Okay,
to play as well.
that's great. All right. Well, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Great, roll call, please.
Trustee Wakefield,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Jim Harper,
Yes.
Craig Cranker.
Yes. Great, thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item 5, staff reports.
And we do have a couple of staff reports in there. If you all have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks, Gloria. I think this is the first time we're acknowledging, I don't think we did it last meeting, the award of the MMOF grant for Blair Street that the town pursued as a match to go after with our award of our CDOT TAP funds. So I just wanted to point that out for the public that we won $260,000 in matching funds that will help get us closer to doing some of the sidewalk and streetscape improvements on Blair Street.
Yeah,
So
and we'll
thank
be
you, staff, for that.
more information on that in the next meeting. We're still working out the details, but yeah,
That's incredible.
very exciting.
Thanks for getting that done, and a shout out to Sarah Moore for pursuing that. And I know Steve and other staff members were working on that. So, any other questions for staff on the staff reports?
Not me.
No.
All right, we'll move on. Let me get my agenda back up. Hold on. All right, we're moving on to item number 7. We don't have any presentations and proclamations, so we're moving on to 7B. As we struck 7A, we removed the marijuana ordinance to a future public hearing. So this is 7B. This is a public hearing for first reading of ordinance 2025-11, an ordinance of the town of Silverton repealing chapter 13, article 1, section 13-1-90 of the Silverton Municipal Code regarding the reimbursement for main extensions and system improvements. So as this is a public hearing, we'll hear from staff. We'll have public comment, and then we will have trustee discussion and deliberations. I will note we had some public comment at the beginning related to this public hearing item. So if that individual would like to make additional public comments for this public hearing, they're welcome to do so during the public comment period. All right, so Gloria, take it away.
Sure. So this is kind of part of us cleaning up our code still. And the reason we picked out this one, it's been, well, first of all, it was never updated with the 25 year. So it's still at the 10-year mark here. So that's how it's different from the chapter 13 one. And the town didn't have a tracking system for prior infrastructure reimbursements other than what they put in GIS. So when trying to apply this code to a recent project, staff consulted with our attorney who recommended repealing this ordinance. There are other mechanisms for private landowners to be paid back for extending the infrastructure, such as a special improvement district, which we're going through right now. And then the staff hasn't found a suitable replacement code for this section from another community, but we are researching and will continue to research. Some of the issues with this current code language include TABAR related legal challenges, basically committing of unbudgeted funds, challenging and unauthorized fees, no identified appeal process, the term may collect, and ambiguity of how the measurement is calculated, and then unknown fiscal impact. So I know that Clayton is looking at chapter 13 as well, but we are starting with chapter 11 because this one hadn't been updated at all. So wanted to kind of get this off the books as soon as we can. How it would affect current, I talked with Clayton on how it might affect current projects that are maybe relying on this code, but the town has not been, it's more been on the private side. So if they have put something in their bond, maybe they took out a bond to do that, then they would have put that in if they were to basically another property were to purchase one of the, I guess you'd say, benefiting properties, then they have been facilitating that through the purchase of that property. So I think we have examples, and I don't know if Dana, you want to go into them at some point, but the town hasn't been holding anyone to that or tracking that in any way. So it's actually really dangerous for us to keep having this on our books. So that's the spiel. And unfortunately, Clayton wasn't able to be here tonight, but he did give me that language to give back to you also.
Thanks, Gloria. That's great. All right, we'll now open it up for public comment as this is a public hearing for the potential repeal of this ordinance. So do we have public comment on this item in particular? And Amy, I'll leave it to you to manage in person. And if you're on Zoom, you can click the raise hand button now and we'll get to you for Zoom comment here in a minute. So anybody have public comment on this agenda item for the public hearing?
You want to speak again?
I would just repeat what you said.
Okay, great. Okay, not in person.
Okay, do we have any online public comment? Okay, it doesn't look like it. All right, well, I have a couple questions around this. I think I've chatted a little bit with Clayton and Gloria on this. I think it makes a lot of sense because the current language under that chapter 11 feels pretty, or chapter 13 feels both vague and broad, which I don't think is super great for a town policy. I think the perspective I'm bringing is that I want to make sure that we still have mechanisms for not only a larger developer to put in infrastructure, but we have mechanisms where if the person at the end of the block, or I know this has happened in alleys, this was the case up on our hillside, someone puts in a sewer main and kind of fronts the cost, because we're not talking about something as large as what we're talking about with the special improvement district. If a private property owner puts in a sewer main or water main that didn't exist before and fronts that cost, then future lots that get built that tap into that there's a mechanism for those future properties to kind of pay their fair share, right? It's kind of called a latecomer agreement, or some mechanism where the person that put in all the upfront cost is not the sole responsible person for that cost. And so I'm okay with appealing what we have in place, but I would be interested in the board's discussion of if or how we want to direct staff to kind of have something on the books in the future for whether it happens at the town recorded level or whether it happens at the private, purchaser property recorded with a deed kind of level. I do think it's important to have something in our code that sort of references how this plays out. And I can give a more concrete example from my own personal experience if it's helpful. And I think you can imagine this in some of our alley developments. I think this happened on Bluff Street. But so for our house, it used to be on septic. There wasn't septic allowed anymore in our town. And so the previous property owner that owned our home was instructed to, install the sewer, extend the sewer. She paid for the whole price of the extension of the sewer. And now there are infill lots that abut that sewer improvement that will benefit from that improvement extension. And again, I think this has happened in a couple other areas in town where the main line did not exist. And so I think if we totally do away with any language like this in our code, we could potentially slow down some of these small scale developments because neighbors are playing chicken and egg with each other over who's going to pay the upfront cost? Because if the first person to put in the upfront cost has to shoulder the full burden and there's no mechanism to kind of share the cost for properties that are also going to benefit, I think we could see potentially a little slowdown in some of these types of infill or infrastructure developments that we might want to see happen, especially as we talk about the hillside or talk about different infill lots that didn't previously have infrastructure to them. So that's kind of my perspective of how we have something on the books. And I think the problem with the current chapter that we're talking about today, or the current section 13-1-90, is there's no details on who keeps a record of that, who administers it, who enforces it, who does anything, really. It's pretty vague. So I'm okay with repealing it, but I would like us to have something better or different. That's what I would argue for. And maybe that just means we keep what we have in section 11.
And
That's my example in case it's helpful for anybody.
I would specify that section 11 is for street extensions and sidewalk extensions, and this one is related to water and sewer.
So it's.
Right. Thank you.
It reads like chapter 11 references water main, sewer main, town street, and public infrastructure improvements. So to me, it reads as just more encompassing than the chapter 13 language.
Yeah, I see it under street, sidewalks, and public property under that chapter. So I think it would be a bit of a stretch to try and incorporate water and sewer into that chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in section 11-20-70, it says reimbursement for street extensions and system improvements. And it says in the event a developer constructs water main, sewer main, town street, and public infrastructure improvements through an unserviced area of the town, and subsequent development of property abutting these improvements occurs, the town shall collect a charge per foot of property frontage from any subsequent property owners prior to issuance of a building permit or within 6 months of the date of such permit. The original developer is responsible for keeping and maintaining records. So it's kind of like chapter 11 gives more specificity to chapter 13, which highlights another reason why we're continuing to clean up our code. But I would agree with Carl that the section 11, even though it refers to streets and sidewalks, section 11 is much broader in referencing water main, sewer main, town street, and public infrastructure.
Yeah, we will be looking at this one on how we can adjust it so that it's maybe situated somewhere else.
Also, I thought we addressed the time limit on the latecomer fee earlier when John Seitz.
Yeah, so we only did that for chapter 13 or we only did that for chapter 11
Only for, okay,
because that was, we pushed it up to 25 years.
I've done that probably for chapter 13
Right.
as well, because
Right.
that's a big one. So if we do repeal this and then readdress it, we should probably include that different time frame.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I just want to give us some time too, for our new public works director to start and kind of help reevaluate these as well. We're just kind of keeping the wheels on the bus, keeping it going, but definitely needing Zarkis's expertise when he comes on.
Sure.
So if we repeal this today, Clayton is looking at different language for this code, right? It's not like it's going to go away and,
Well, I mean, it's going to go away for now.
but we will replace it.
Yeah.
That's the intention.
I mean, on your direction.
Yeah.
Yes, I said,
But chapter 11 will cover us for
for now.
main extensions and
I mean, I guess so. This was honestly Clayton's initiative here. I'm trying to take over while he's out.
You know,
Should we do this without?
yeah, that was my question, Tyler, is actually as I think about this a little bit more, again, I think it's important to protect the town's interests. And we need to make sure that we have the proper mechanisms and like administrative structure to implement the code that we have. But as I'm looking into this a little bit more, and I think this is something we need to flag for Clayton, it feels a little funny to me to have the conversation about chapter 13, which is about public municipal utilities. So I'm just looking in the code right now. That's the chapter 13 is about municipal utilities, and it goes into all the ways about service line extensions, and you have to get a permit before you start messing with city stuff and all that kind of stuff. And it has a reimbursement policy language. But then we also have chapter 11, which is streets and sidewalks. And it has this section, as the public comment mentioned earlier, that talks about reimbursement for street extensions and system improvements. And so I guess my question to you, Gloria, and maybe it's just something we need to kick back to Clayton, is it feels kind of, I'm not sure we're doing the intention of cleaning up the code if we're repealing it in one section and not the other, and or if we want to keep some sort of language or have some sort of policy in the future that they're not consistent in one section versus the other. So it's kind of a question to the board and a question to Gloria of whether we need to do these together or not.
I mean, that makes sense.
What I would maybe recommend is tabling this.
Yeah.
For the next meeting for Clayton to weigh in on.
Because it also doesn't read to me like chapter 11 will cover
Right.
water or sewer. It doesn't read like that at all.
Yeah.
And so we would just be repealing something and then there's nothing for,
Nothing and no solution in place.
and yeah, I don't know.
I think that would be a good move today.
Yeah.
So we could table this to July 14th, if that would be okay with you all.
Since it's a public hearing, we need a motion.
Yeah, and then you would say in your motion table to date certain, which would be July 13th or July, shoot. Just double check when our next meeting
Like
is
14?
14th.
And can I also ask the question, and okay, so it sounds like there's a request to table it. Is there any opposition to table this topic? No, okay. So the question I have for you, Gloria, since this is a public hearing, we'll table it, but it does sound like I'm hearing a sense from the board that we would like to consider this section in relation to, we'd like to consider section 11 and section 13 in relation to each other. And I think it sounds like the board would also like to have a discussion around what a policy should be. And I think Clayton has some input on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I will-
if we do
we can
table this
play-
public hearing, can we add in a discussion of section 11, since what we were potentially repealing was section 13?
Yes, I'll chat with Clayton on that one, on how he wants to present it.
Okay.
But we can always have that discussion.
The 14th.
And then this was not noticed in the newspaper. We don't notice our first readings in the newspaper, so it's fine to table it to a date certain.
Okay, great. I was just gonna ask if the 14th was too soon for him or.
I don't know. But if we do, we put it on the next meeting, and if it's not available, we can put it on the next meeting after that, so.
Great. Yeah, just have a nice detailed conversation about it and. Well prepared.
Yeah.
Great,
I'll make-
okay, so go ahead, Tyler. Yep.
I'll make a motion to table this first reading of ordinance 2025-11 to July 4th, the July 14th meeting.
Second,
Okay, roll call, please.
trustee Wakefield,
Yes.
trustee Schnitker,
Yes.
trustee Gardner, yes, trustee George,
Yes.
Pro Tem Harper,
Yes.
Mayor Cranker.
Yes. Great. Okay, thanks, board. And again, Clayton had planned on being here, but something had come up. So it makes sense to move a couple of these agenda items. All right, so we've closed the public hearing. We'll move on to agenda item 7C since we struck 7A. This is a public hearing, second reading for adoption of ordinance 2025-09, an ordinance of the town of Silverton amending chapter 7, article 8 of the Silverton Municipal Code regarding the harassment and feeding of wildlife in accordance with Colorado Parks and Wildlife regulations. So this is a second reading. We'll hear from staff. We'll open it up for public comment, and then we'll have trustee discussion and deliberations.
Great. So working with the Wildlife Coalition and researching other communities, this ordinance includes proposed additions to section 7, 8 to 10, defining the harassment of wildlife. Another proposed addition to section 7-8-350D, prohibiting people from allowing their animals to harass wildlife, and a new section in chapter 7 defining when and where bird feeders can be hung and discouraging people from intentionally or unintentionally feeding wildlife.
Great, thanks, Gloria. We'll now open it up for public comment. Do we have any public comment related to the second hearing in person? And if you're on Zoom, you can click the raise hand button. We'll start with in-person public comment.
We have one in person.
Great.
Hello, I'm Evan. Me, Wes, and Kelly, and Gloria, and Bevan worked on this, and I think that I'm partial because the things that went into it were things we felt very strong about, but nothing is like out of this world wild that is not in many other town codes that have a similar situation that we have. So that's all.
Thank you. Okay, that's all for in person.
Great. Do we have anybody online? Great. Yes, we'll promote you to panelist. Just give us a minute.
Can you
Hi,
hear
Wes.
me?
Yes.
We can, Wes. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I just real briefly to follow up on Evan, and from the last reading of this or whatever, I just encourage you to support these ordinance changes to be kind of more in line with what the other mountain communities and stuff in Colorado have done. I think it's important to do this to try to avoid situation getting worse. As I mentioned previously, there's a definite public safety aspect to this. If we have bears roaming in town regularly, I'm afraid at some point there's going to be an unfortunate situation involving one of our citizens, potentially one of the kids in town. So I think it's important to have this and to recognize that we live in their home and we need to act accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wes. Any other online public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment for this public hearing. Any further trustee discussions on the second reading for this ordinance?
I had somebody come to me and ask me if rodents would be exempt from this.
Oh, harassing like rodents?
Like rodents, like mice.
Mhm.
Like, does this mean you can't have a mousetrap? I think that's just clearly stating the question.
Is that what people are asking about
Yes.
mouse traps?
Mouse traps, small rodents.
Can I say something?
Sure.
There's already there's already the like, which I don't know, someone could bring that issue up with the existing code of the, what is it? Why am I blanking on it? Animal cruelty. Someone could bring that issue up with it, and specifically, I don't think there's anything in it with that, but that already exists in the code, and so I would say like, you know, maybe that's a gray area, but already there's nothing in our code saying that you can't use a mousetrap, nor does
Yeah.
this, but I guess maybe that is a gray area, but there is already existing code about like animal cruelty and people still use mousetraps, and I don't think that that's,
Yeah, I think we all probably use.
So
mouse
And we
traps.
did define harassing
Yeah.
as well. So I hope that helps kind of define what you're doing to the animal. I don't know.
Harassing them.
I'm not sure about rodents, I'll be completely honest.
Well, and when it comes to implementation and enforcement of this, right, a lot of it is we don't have a code enforcement officer that's knocking on your doors looking if you have mousetraps. That's not the scenario we're finding ourselves in.
Now,
So
if you're
I think
putting the
yeah,
mouse
go ahead.
traps loaded outside, then you are unintentionally feeding the wildlife.
Yeah, and
because-
we did have an issue several years ago with somebody putting poison outside. and
Yeah.
That was,
And so it does.
There is-
Our code enforcement more
Yeah.
weight to when they want to, when they see an infraction that's potentially harming like wildlife that's not a rodent or a human, basically. So it gives them more teeth, which we don't have in our code yet. And if we want to start, you know, a coalition around rodents, we can do that as well. Like, what do you guys want to do?
I would argue that this updated language solves a larger problem that we have. And if we start to see some unintended consequences where a bunch of people are getting tickets for having a mousetrap, then I would think we could have another conversation.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, I'm ready to move it forward. Anyone else? Any questions?
I move to adopt ordinance 2025-09, an ordinance of the town of Silverton amending chapter 7, article 8 of the Silverton Municipal Code regarding the harassment and feeding of wildlife in accordance with Colorado Parks and Wildlife regulations.
second,
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Gardner? Yes. Mr. George?
yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Harper?
Yes.
Mayor Krinker?
Yes. Great, thank you. Thanks, Gloria and staff. Thanks for the Wildlife Coalition. Again, let us know if people are getting tickets for mousetraps, and we'll revisit this. All right, moving on to agenda item 7D, public hearing. This is a second reading for adoption of ordinance 2025-08, an ordinance creating an improvement district in the town of Silverton, county of San Juan, Colorado, to be known as the town of Silverton 8th and Bluff Special Improvement District, and providing for the method of payment of special assessment. This is an additional public hearing to coincide with the date for the public hearing that was listed in the Silverton Standard. So for anybody who's confused, that's why this is on the agenda again. So this is the public hearing that coincides with the notice that was in the Standard. Again, as a public hearing, we'll open it up for staff. And we can have public comment, and then we'll have trustee discussion and deliberations. Take it away, Gloria.
All right, so the public hearing notice published in the Silverton Standard on June 5th stated that the public hearing would be scheduled for June 23rd. We held the public hearing at that June meeting. I think that was June 9th. And this was a typo, but to ensure that the public has adequate notice and the board is being asked to reopen the public hearing and take public comment. After the public comment is heard and the hearing is concluded, the board can then reaffirm their June 9th vote to adopt the ordinance or take a different action.
Great, thank you, Gloria.
Want me to
All right,
introduce- Oh, yeah, go
Sure.
ahead.
I was just gonna say, we can open up for public comment. I mean, we can hear from the applicant or the lead on this, or open up for public comment.
Any in-person public comment?
Well, I can comment quickly.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hi again, everyone. Thanks for hearing this for a third time now. I guess second time officially. But I don't have anything really to add, but if anyone does have any questions that have come up in the meantime, let me know. Other than that, we're diligently working to move 5 or 6 steps forward and getting everything in place and giving Clayton all the clarity he needs to keep this moving forward. I've gotten some template documents from Douglas County for follow-on ordinances and whatnot. So as long as you guys can keep it moving forward, we're a handful of steps ahead. So yeah, I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jeff. Do we have any other in-person public comment?
We do not.
Okay, thanks, Amy. Do we have any online public comment related to this special hearing regarding the special improvement, or this public hearing regarding the special improvement district? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do we have any further trustee discussion or deliberations on this?
Not for me.
Okay. Well, I'd entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 2025-08, an ordinance creating an improvement district in the town of Silverton, County of San Juan, Colorado, to be known as the Town of Silverton 8th and Bluff Special Improvement District, and providing for the method of payment of special assessment.
So moved.
Second.
Great, roll call, please.
Trustee Wakefield?
Yes.
Trustee Schnittker?
Yes.
Yes. George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harper?
Yes.
Mayor Crinker?
Yes. Great, thank you. Thanks, Gloria and team, for crossing the Ts and dotting the Is. We're now moving on to agenda item 7E. This is special event, this contract renewal for Hard Rock 100. And I will pass it off to Sarah.
Oh, okay.
Or Gloria, whoever.
Basically, this is just status quo, the agreement. We added a couple different things surrounding the facility rental. Since we made some updates on the nonprofit number of dates that they can have a year. And so basically this is just securing the facility for them for 5 years, based on the 6 nonprofit date and 50% for data booking after. We committed to 2 dumpsters at Kendall Mountain for the duration of their booking, which is going to typically be around 2 weeks, and committed to giving them a 15 by 15 space in the visitor center basement to store their stuff year round. Dale and team have been a great partner, and really it was just a matter of adding a couple things that haven't been added in several years and just changing some of the language.
And they're all okay with the changes?
Yes.
Thanks, Sarah. A couple of things that stand out to me, I think the Hard Rock 100 is really one of our keystone events. I mean, if you went around town, you could survey a number of people who actually became longtime residents from the race. And so I think that's a really neat example of how we kind of have a connection to this longstanding event. And I know the history of sort of like the Hard Rock 100 folks were looking around at the different communities, and Silverton was the main one that said, yeah, hey, we want to be the lead. We want to be the base camp. We want to be a part of this. And that's kind of a long-standing history there. So I think it feels really good to keep that partnership strong. I think it's important for us to all acknowledge, and hopefully the Hard Rock crew is aware of this, that giving up Kendall for some prime weekends in the summer is not an insignificant budget option for the town. I mean, obviously they're still paying to use the facilities, but they're getting a discounted rate during some prime summer weekends. So I think that, and some of the other in-kind stuff and the dumpsters they're really ways that we support our economy. We support our local economy. I've heard from several local businesses that the Hard Rock 100 group is just such a great crowd because they really try to support local businesses. They donate scholarships back to the community. I was at the school graduation and they had, tens of thousands of dollars that they were giving to the community. So I think this is one way that in our budget we can support some of those longstanding partners, keystone events. We're not donating any money to them, but like many of our other events and partners, we're giving in-kind support, and we are offering the Kendall a contract to be able to use Kendall during the summer at a discounted rate. So I think those are really great ways in our budget that we can support this longstanding event that really, people come and live here for a month, right? And kind of contribute to our economy in that way, renting hotels, renting Airbnbs, shopping at our shops, buying stuff from the grocery store. So great event. I love the ways that we can support them, and hopefully the Hard Rock 100 crew feels supported by this community in those ways.
Very well said, Dana.
Yeah, I would just add that we've worked with them very closely with EMS for years, and they are exemplary in their planning and organizing. And, a lot of these big events, we have to gear up and we have to get more people on board. And we've never really had to do that for the Hard Rock. And we tell other event coordinators to go and look at their blueprint and try and copy it, because they're very good at what they do, from emergency planning to just all the organization as a whole is really well done. So it doesn't add any burden either, I don't feel like, to us. So
yeah,
which is big in the middle of July.
You have to make a motion for this one?
Yeah. Contract.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 Hard Rock contract renewal with revisions.
Second.
Great, roll call, please.
Trustee Wakefield?
Yes.
Trustee Schicker?
Yes.
Trustee Gardner? Yes. Trustee George?
Yes.
Member Tim Harper?
Yes.
Brinker?
Yes. Great. Thanks, team. Thanks, Sarah, for working with them on that. All right, moving on to agenda item 8. We have a couple things here. We have San Juan County Commissioner response letter as 8A. Gloria, did you want to give a little intro on that?
Sure. I attended the county commissioners meeting on May 14th and submitted a letter in the packet to the commissioners to clarify some of the assumptions that came up during that meeting, and there was some confusion. So I thought it would be best just to kind of write it down and send it over to them. And they responded with a letter that is in your packet. And I wanted to give you all the opportunity to discuss the letter, as well as request to set a time in August where both boards can meet without any presentation scheduled and talk about the future budgeting issues we'll be facing.
Thanks, Gloria. I think as a board, I can only speak for myself, but I just want to extend appreciation for you connecting with the commissioners and attending some of their meetings to just, be present and help clarify things. And, they're great colleagues. We're the only municipality in the county. We inherently have to work together closely and work well together. And I appreciate all the ways that you and Willie have tried to facilitate that. So I'm excited about a joint session. I think sometimes there's opportunities for us to have joint sessions where we do get presentations from regional partners and folks that relate to us all that we need to know, and also good to have sessions where it's just us talking with each other and working out, some of the same challenges we all face. So I appreciated the commissioner's response, and also, Gloria, your effort to clarify. And what stands out to me in both of these letters is really the significant ways that these two boards and bodies have invested in this community over the years, whether it's through affordable housing efforts that have been kicked off by the county and taken on by the town, whether it's through, funding huge efforts to get our emergency services tax passed and implemented and funding the various entities that serve our community and our visitors, whether it's, school and preschool services, health services, just all the ways that we really have to work together to serve both the residents in town, the residents in the county, and all of the visitors that we host. So I appreciate that effort. Anything from the board that you want to discuss or call out from the letters from the letter from the commissioners or Gloria's letter to the commissioners, or anything you really want to put on Gloria's radar to make sure we discuss at this joint session?
Nothing specific for me, though. I was just wondering if perhaps we can have this on a day that we don't have a town board meeting, so we can have more time to connect with the county and discuss.
Yeah, I'm looking at Tuesdays or Thursdays in August right now.
Yeah, I also like the point they made that maybe we can skip some of the presentations. I feel like some of the last combined ones, by the time we got through the presentations, I feel like a lot of the energy was maybe, gone. So I think we could get more done if it was just focused on our two respective boards.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll be reaching out for some Tuesdays or Thursdays in August, because we are trying to make it so it's not on either of our meeting days. And then I'll reach out with some dates and pass those by the commissioners and see if we can't get something on the books.
Great.
Thanks, Gloria. All right, moving on to agenda item 8B, refuse in Silverton. I know we all are excited to still be talking about this. We got a lovely visit from a CBS reporter who did a story, so check that out if you'd like. I think there was a lot more he could have done with it, but we got what we got. Yeah, so for anybody listening, and if you don't get the newspaper, if you look in the packet, there's kind of a clarification press release on what actually changed in regards to refuse this year. I just note for the public that the number of convenience cans in our main areas on Green Street, Blair Street, and throughout town is the same as last year. So we did not do away with any convenience cans. The main change was that camp dumpster. And I think what really came out in this discussion is we were just noticing that the camp dumpster was getting misused. It was having times where it was full of large items and furniture. So when it overflows, it's very natural for folks who want to dispose of their trash properly to set down trash next to it and think that, well, eventually it'll get into the dumpster. But in our climate and environment, what happens is that it gets gotten into by our wildlife, our mice, our bears, our rodents, and get scattered all over. So the camp trash was kind of being abused, and I don't know of too many other municipalities that provide free dumping outside of their boundaries. So that's kind of what came of the camp dumpster decision. I think the board is certainly very has the option to revisit this over the summer and see what worked and what didn't. And staff can kind of make some changes, but I think a lot of the staff decisions and policy or kind of administrative decisions that we made were based off of what wasn't working last year, because trash was also a big topic last year, and trash related to wildlife management was a big topic last year. So this year it was an effort to kind of improve some of the challenges from last year, and I think we'll still keep talking about this. So I would just hope that we could revisit this at the end of the summer and see what worked and what didn't. And maybe it needs a larger conversation on kind of, again, how we sort of support our federal land partners, talk with the county, we support the county on how we manage kind of visitors outside of the municipal boundaries. Mm-hmm. So other thoughts from the board on the memo and trash, or kind of what we want to do throughout this busy season?
Yeah, and then for people leaving town, campers, there is a big dumpster at the Whistle Stop gas station and at the visitor center as well.
Center, yes.
So if people need to dump on their way out, they can. And I wanted to give a shout out to staff for taking care of those dumpsters in town and picking them up more than last year as well. So thank you guys for your work.
I'm happy to answer any questions on our policies or what we're doing or operations. This has created a good conversation that we need to have in Silverton around our refuse and our trash. And so while it stemmed from a poorly worded Facebook post, I'm excited to finally have these conversations, and many of our community members have reached out with their ideas and solutions. Tomorrow I'm meeting with a community member who has proposed a private sector solution. So I'm looking forward to kind of collaborating on that, and that's really it's going to be a collective challenge moving forward, and nothing's set in stone. Like, we had a 3-yard dumpster at the whistle stop. Trisha and I have been communicating very well, and she asked, that maybe we have a 6-yard there. So we switched that to a 6-yard, and then opened up the visitor center dumpsters as well. So we're managing it, and we're seeing like how much we need to add back on right now. But in these locations, we can monitor the trash a lot quicker than out at the transfer station. Also, Bruin was not able to dump the camper dumpster more frequently than every 10 days, which was a huge burden on us. So we can get these smaller dumpsters that we have at the gas station and at the visitor center can be dumped 3 times a week. So that's a lot more manageable, and that's something that we can turn over a lot faster and hopefully not have the trash there for animals to get into. So.
Yeah. And I was wondering for the bear proof cans in town, now they're a little bit difficult for some people to get open. If perhaps we could have some messaging out there on maybe pictures of how to.
Yeah, so we're looking at retrofitting those cans. However, this work needs to be scheduled around our current project load. So the previous retrofitting that we did and that we completed was done over the winter and the spring when we had that time. Right now, our team is focused on basically meeting the affordable housing deadline that we have now coming in. So we have a lot of taps going in, and the sewer collection system improvements. So we know that they're difficult, and we're trying to make them, like, as far as creating that weight maybe a little lighter, that weight's not so heavy so it doesn't slam so bad. And then we're going to start with the weight, honestly, because the CPW did not recommend any kind of pull technique, like anything that a bear could pull, because they can snap that latch right away. So we're looking at maybe something that you can pinch and pull, and hopefully bears can't pinch something. But yes, we are looking into that. It is going to be a slower rollout than when we got the trash cans out, because also taking a trash can away for the day is also burdensome. So it's just a little bit of a logistical nightmare as we go into the busiest time of our season. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. I
think oh yeah, go ahead, Amy, sorry.
Like a picture, like a media blast or something of just, hey, like, these are the trash cans.
Yeah, I'm a little,
yeah.
Well, last time, so.
Yeah, totally. But just like people walking, they might see that and be like, is that a trash can? Yeah, just to get something.
Yeah.
Eventually.
I mean,
latch, pull, hatch or something.
Take pictures of us opening them.
Again, I think we have to make it hard for the bear. So be smarter than the bear and, manage your fingers appropriately, and everybody should be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, if you guys would like us to do more there and reprioritize it, we can. I just wanted to give you kind of the heads up that we do recognize that they are difficult to open, but we have done all of this in-house and are continuing to try and workshop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one thing I wanted to clarify for any public who might be listening, or maybe for the paper, and this was in the article that we had in the paper, but the reason why we didn't use we could have gone after the Colorado Parks and Wildlife grant for bear resistant trash cans. It can be used to fund bear resistant trash cans. But the thought process with the Wildlife Coalition and with staff was like, staff was saying, hey, we can retrofit these in-house and then we don't have to use that grant funding for trash cans. We can use that grant funding for better code enforcement, better refuse management. So it really was meant to be a win-win by retrofitting them in-house. And we did go after the Colorado Parks. We did submit an application for the Colorado Parks and Wildlife grant that's related to reducing human wildlife conflict. We just used it for different purposes, which are to help with managing refuse at the refuse station, for having a point of sale system so that we can actually have a mechanism to charge visitors for trash that don't typically have a refuse tag, and to do better code enforcement around wildlife harassment or dumpsters that are not latched, etc. So it was kind of a whole package. So I just asked people to kind of keep that in mind, that we retrofitted them in-house so that we could really leverage the Colorado Parks and Wildlife dollars to help deal with other trash issues and other human wildlife conflict mitigation. And the other thing I'd remind the public is, if you see a dumpster overturned, if you see a dumpster overflowing, if you see a latch not on, or if you see other issues related to trash, text the number. It's all over town. It's 970-903-3328. You can find it on the town website. And that's a great way, if you're still seeing issues with dumpsters in the alley or things like that, that is your outlet to try to report some of that. And of course, CBS didn't take my best quote, but I think it's a good thing to remind all of ourselves is that, we're a community of 700 or 800 and we have 4 million visitor days. We host a lot of people in this county, and the public comes to visit us because of these beautiful lands that we have. And most of them are public lands. Most of them are public and federal lands. And those public lands, the public deserves a right to them. The public has a right to them. It's why we all live here. It's why people come to see us. And the public lands also have a right to be cared for. And I think that's what we're asking our visitors, especially as we have fewer federal workers on these lands. There's fewer trash receptacles open. There's fewer toilets open. We're just asking everybody to help take care of the lands that are all of ours anyways. I think we can do that in a variety of ways that are still sustainable for a town of our size and a county of our size. So any other comments on trash? Or requests? Gloria, I think it'd be great to just hear from you all, Public Works and Facilities and Parks at the end of the summer, and just say, hey, this is what worked, this is what didn't work. This is where we had issues.
Do that. We'll report out.
Great. Anything else on this issue before we put the lid on the can? See what I did there, Jim?
I guess just a reminder for everyone, it was the Silverton Town Cleanup Day the other day, and I picked up quite a lot of cigarette butts. It is wildfire season, just a reminder to everyone, just please don't throw them on the ground, take them with you, properly disposed.
Thanks, Amy. We have lots of trash cans on the side of the road. Extinguish them and put them in the trash can. And there is double the amount of dog waste stations than what we had last year. So take advantage. All right, we don't have any committee reports. We have agenda item 10, open discussion of future agenda items. Anything for the good of the board?
Yeah, I just want to repeat what Amy just said. Thanks for doing the town cleanup, Dana. Does all the legwork to organize that. So thanks very much for doing that. And hopefully next year we can get it back to its original month. It's not as busy. Thanks again for everybody that showed up, and to Dana for all the organization.
Thanks, Tyler. Well, thanks to the ambulance crew for being the base camp, because you guys always help make it happen with hot dogs. And if you missed out, come on out. All you folks complaining about trash, we didn't see you. So come on out and help out. We'll give you a bag. It was a great time. I'm kind of thinking we need to start a competition where like the people that collect the most will weigh the trash, and, or maybe we start a competition where, the entity or business or household that generates the least amount of trash wins an award. I don't know. We can get creative. We could get creative. But thanks to everybody that came out. I saw a number of our young people. So there were some kiddos that rode up on their bikes and were ready to pick up trash. So there is hope for the next generation. And we'll try to do this again in May when folks are less busy. But thanks to all those who came out. All right, we'll now move on to our last public comment for the evening. Is there anybody in person that has public comment? And then if you're on Zoom, you can click the raise hand button and we'll promote you to panelist. So any in-person public comment?
No.
Okay, do we have any Zoom public comment? All right, it doesn't look like it. So I will adjourn public comment and close public comment and adjourn the meeting. The time is 6:30 and I adjourn this meeting. Thanks everybody for a very efficient agenda.
Make note of
And if
this.
anybody doesn't know, Lindsay, Jim and I are hanging out shortly for the Colorado Municipal League Conference. So wish us luck.
Good luck there.
We'll bring you lots of great ideas.
Dana, bye.